why is this such a big debate in America? You can tell from my accent, I was born in England, I lived most of my life in Canada, and frankly, this science-religion debate in this sort of way is not an issue. I mean, in Canada, for instance, we have state-supported Catholic schools, and yet the whole question of biblical literalism is not a big issue. Why is it an issue in America? And I hope that some of these topics will come up in our discussion today.
In order to understand why we have this problem in the United States about the teaching of evolution, we need to consider a little bit of history. And since this is a series of lectures that is sponsored partly, if not completely, by the humanities, I think this is a good place for us to start, in the beginning, so to speak. First of all, American education is much more politicized than education is in any other developed country that you can think of. Certainly, I am not familiar with any that has politicized education as much as the United States has. Part of this does relate or does derive from, I believe, our pioneer heritage. The fact that the United States was settled by people of different religious traditions, predominantly the Protestant English and the Catholic French and Spanish, but pretty much the aspects of our government, the aspects of our society are much, even though, you know, here I come from the West and we are in the West and we obviously see a Spanish influence, but really the instruments of governance are primarily English and do evolve, shall we say, from British common law. And the nation was much more strongly influenced by these traditions. The British religious tradition was much more congregational. Catholic religious tradition was much more top-down, much more hierarchical. The English colonies were settled by groups of different Protestants, all of which were pretty darn much on their own. They couldn't really get much from the home country. And basically, as a pioneer society, as people moved through the river valleys and settled the interior of the country, the frontier was pretty much do-it-yourself. If you wanted a church, well, then someone was called and you built a church and you had a church. If you wanted a school, you hired somebody to be the teacher, you built a school and you had a school. There was not much in the way of a national government through the early couple of hundred years of our country. There wasn't much even of a state or territorial government. The settlement pattern of the United States, being a frontier kind of environment, meant that the settlers were pretty much on their own. They had to make do, they had to kind of make it up as they go along. And of course, one of the things that happened was the evolution of the peculiarly American decentralized education school board system, which we cherish greatly. Now, there are a lot of good things about local control of education. I would like to suggest that curriculum is not one of them. Okay. School boards, this is a long-standing tradition in the United States as well. School boards, this is the Texas School Board, are composed of well-meaning citizens who are giving back to their community in various ways. They are public-minded. Very rarely are they knowledgeable, much less experts in curricular areas. And yet these elected school board members are given authority to make decisions, including decisions over the science curriculum. So what we have here is a highly decentralized school system, or education system, that cherishes local control, question authority, and consists of 17,000 independent school districts. Is it a surprise that we have a very balkanized education system?